Welcome to the Metal Voice. Today on the show, the one, the only Mr. Geoff Tate, the mastermind behind Operation Mindcrime. Jeff, what's going on?
Just enjoying the summer weather here in Seattle. Getting ready to hit the road in September for the promotion of the new album. I'm looking forward to that.
It's called Resurrection. That's part 2 of the trilogy. Jeff, right off the bat, okay? The first part, can you give us a quick summary and then just give us a little peek into part 2? I know you don't want to give it away, right? What the story's all about.
Well, the first album ends with the protagonist, the lead character, left for dead, really. And so the second album begins with him kind of fighting his way back and trying to stay alive, strong enough so he can at least get some help and find himself, get on a path of recovery, really. And then the album kind of continues. It's the second act of a 3-act, structure. So he's trying to decide what he should do with his life and how he can kind of find his way back from the devastation that he's experienced.
I heard this album 10 times already. I keep listening to it, and I'm seriously impressed, by the way. This album is stretching your musical muscle, I think. I didn't even know how to classify this, Jeff. I'm thinking in my head, how do I classify this music?
Yeah, well, classifying music's really not my thing, It's kind of better left for other people to do, I think.
Yeah, like me, right?
Yeah, you can have that job.
How's this? Let me name a few tracks off this album, okay? And just give me your overall impression in the musical direction, just so everybody out there has a taste of what this album kind of sounds like.
Yeah, well, this album isn't really designed to try to fit into a genre,
Okay.
It's an album that's telling a story, and a story typically has characters, right?
Yeah.
And characters experience life, and life is filled with experience, adventure, sadness, gladness, happiness, joy, terror, fear, and so the music is got to exhibit those emotions, and so what may sound like a lot of musical direction is really just music that's telling a story. If it was all telling the same emotion or exhibiting the same emotion, it wouldn't be much of a story, would it?
A song like A Smear Campaign, like, it just blew me away. The jazz-influenced, chaotic fusion, drumming, I don't know, man. Any comments about that?
Well, it was really a fun track to write.
Yeah.
And even funner track to record. There's some just insane drumming on that record. Brian Tishy recorded that, and he just went crazy on it. It's what he does best. And he's an amazing drummer. And that's a track that I hate to say song because it's kind of more than a song. It goes through several different movements, really that are quite different from each other. It's a track that was very challenging to write because you have these different kinds of movements within the track that you have to try to bridge, them together, and that's very challenging to create these bridges so these very different parts can work together, So I'd say that there's 2 tracks on the album that really took the longest to write and to record and to perfect, and that's one of them, The Smear Campaign. The other is Into the Hands of the World. And again, it's a similar situation of having a very diverse track with a bunch of different diverse parts and having to bridge them together.
What about a song like Taking on the World? Now, this is the track that had Ripper and Blaze on it.
Yeah, that was a track that was at first written and inspired by Dave Ellison from Megadeth. Kind of a funny story. About 3 years ago, he and I found each other on an airplane headed for South America, and we had never met before, but we sat next to each other on the plane and had a great time had great conversations about life, music, raising a family, being in famous bands, traveling the world. And we found we had a lot in common. And we talked a lot about what, musical projects we were doing at the time. And I told him about my record. And a couple of weeks after I got home from the trip, I get an email with a bunch of songs attached to it that he'd written. And he said, maybe these will work for your album. Let me know. And that really started our dialogue off on music writing together. And so he contributed a song on the first album, and this song on the second album, Taking on the World, is the second track. It's a really cool track. It's very, heavy and driving, and got a great chorus riff, and very cool guitar solo in this one too.
How about Healing My Wounds? I love that track. I think it's very... I don't know if there's anything close to Queensryche. I guess that would be it.
Yeah, well, I could see that, because it has that sort of arpeggio guitar part that goes on and on and on, and it's kind of relentless, and that's kind of a Queensryche thing to do. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones on the album. That one was written by myself and Mark Bayley, who also sings lead vocal on it for the first verse. And I think Kelly had some writing on that as well. And it's a really cool, expressive track, and there's some really cool vocal stuff on it that Mark did, and then we sang together on parts of the song that I think really has a nice transition between his part and my part. I think it's very cool on that. And then Kelly did an amazing guitar solo.
Wow, you're right, definitely.
Yeah, which was kind of a funny story on that is he said, I really want to do a long extended solo on the outro of this song. What can you give me, to play against? So I took the track and wrote the outro of it, and gave him all these interesting chord variations to play over. So he got it back from me, and he calls me and he goes, "Oh, thanks. Now I have to do all this extra modal work to try to make this solo fit."
By the way, I'm so impressed with the musicianship on this album. I'll talk about the bass. I mean, it sounds like Chris Squire sort of sound throughout the album. That big bass, that heavy tone, and the keyboards, they're so prominent. I mean, there's just so much more keyboards on this album than the last.
Well, Chris Squire had been in our thoughts quite a bit, because all three of us involved with the record were huge Squire fans. And when he passed, it was a real shock to everybody. And so I think that Scott, who played a lot of bass on the album, and Kelly, who played a lot of bass on the album, were really inspired a lot by his passing, And the keyboard stuff, this is one of the first records I played a lot of keyboards on, and we just kind of wanted it to be a bit more experimental in that thing, a little bit more leaning towards, if there was a genre, really, it'd be more of a prog rock genre, really. It's what we wanted the record to sound like,
We talked about the album. Let's talk about the Trinity. I know Blaze. I've interviewed Blaze multiple times. I've met him. I've never met Tim. But after working with these guys, what did you learn about them? Like a positive thing that you've learned about them that you never knew before.
Oh, it was really interesting, because I had never, recorded them before or worked with their vocals before, So it was really interesting. From an engineering standpoint, to see the differences in our voices and the sound of our voices are three completely different things, different microphone needs, different EQ needs, all that kind of stuff. We're very different animals, really. But it was really fun working with that difference, and making something out of three really distinctly different voices,
Yeah.
Very fun, and I look forward to touring with these guys and playing shows with them, because their personalities.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, we just spent like 3 days together shooting this video for the song, and we had the best time, just the best time. They stayed at my house, and we drank a lot and told a lot of stories and laughed a lot, and that's great when you can just click with people and have a good time without it being, weird or forced or, that kind of thing. And I really adore both those guys. They're fantastic.
Oh, definitely. Actually, Blaze is coming to Montreal in a few weeks. He's doing a small Canadian tour. And,
yeah, he told me about that.
Yeah, he's doing a small, and we're doing a little bit of an online documentary on him on that tour, so that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, he's the hardest working man in the show business.
Absolutely.
He's just always touring, man. It's hard to nail him down,
Oh yeah, and what a voice! I mean, this guy's gotten better over the years, right? I mean, it's incredible.
Oh, he's so loud. It's unbelievable how loud that guy is. Just his speaking voice, like when you're in a car with him driving in traffic for an hour and a half. he's like an air horn, so loud. He tells a great story though, and he and I really share a passion for motorcycles, and so this video he was very excited about because there was a lot of motorcycles and hot rod cars in this video, and he got to ride a bunch of different like customized motorcycles in the video, and he was real happy about that.
Oh, cool. Okay, so what's the song's going to look like? I mean, you're going to play Queensryche, they're going to play Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. What's a set list going to look like?
Yeah, kind of like that. We're the three ex-singers from famous bands, so we're going to do, the music that we were involved with making, with the bands. I'm going to be doing Queensryche material, and Blaze, of course, is doing Iron Maiden material, and Ripper's doing Judas Priest, and then we're getting together to do some songs together. We're trading off on lead vocals on some songs. We're harmonizing on some songs. It's really, really kind of all about singers, and playing some great, heavy rock music and having a good time doing it.
Expanding the tour, ideas, what's going on?
Well, the biggest challenge that we have with doing a tour together, we found, is we all three have very extensive touring schedules. So getting us all lined up to be in the same place is it's really quite an undertaking. So, we managed to get, I think, 10 dates to start with in the Northeast in the end of November. And we're going to try to book some more in other parts of the world. It's just a kind of a challenge to do that at the moment, but we're all kind of working towards doing that because we enjoy the project so much, And so we're going to see if we can extend it and, add it to some different places in the world. In the meantime, though, I've got an OMC tour that begins in December in Europe, and then we make it back over to America to start that in the spring, sometime like late February, early March.
So once this trilogy is said and done, all right, where do you go next? I mean, another concept album, or just straightforward, or you haven't even thought of something like this yet? I mean, where do you go after all of this?
I don't know, Jimmy. You got any ideas? Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let me ask.
Maybe I'll retire after this. I don't know.
I mean, you've done it all after this. I mean, where do you go, right? What about if a big name band said, Geoff, do you want to join us? I mean, would that cross your mind? Would you ever consider joining a band and being part of a band after years of being a solo artist?
I suppose so. If the right situation occurred, I mean, if Yes ever asked me, I'd jump at that.
Nice.
A band that I really like a lot, a band that I felt like I could contribute if they wanted to, make new music. I would love that because I'm all about making new music all the time. Yeah, I suppose I would, entertain that idea.
Genesis?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to work with, are you familiar with Steve Hackett?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm a huge Steve Hackett fan, and I've been wanting to work with him for years.
And on a last question, have you, since Queensryche broke up, have you guys had some sort of friendship, or, hey, Geoff, you're making some great tunes, not musical, I mean, just, has there been any connection with Queensryche since you've sort of separated?
Nothing. Nope. No, not a word.
All right, fair enough. So there you have it, people. Resurrection, the new album, it's September 23rd. Pick it up, it's phenomenal. If you're a prog rock fan, you'll love this album. Geoff Tate, a master, I tell you. Pick it up. I'm anxiously awaiting part 3, by the way. I'm already on part 3. I'm waiting for part 3, Geoff. Thanks for being on the show, Geoff.
I'm with you all the way. I've just been listening to part 3 quite a bit, and I'm with you.
Is there anything else?
If you like part 2, you'll like part 3.
Oh, by the way, I think part 1 was the appetizer, part 2 is the main course, and part 3 will be the dessert. Am I correct?
That's a good title, dessert. Well, great. Well, thanks, Jimmy, for the interview. I really appreciate it, man, and I hope to get up to Montreal as soon as possible, hopefully in the spring after the snow melts.